concerns, issues into it as the first part of the webinar proceeds. Then rather than you presenting those verbally, our plan is that myself and my fellow board member, that's Lucy Grieve, you'll see Lucy's probably image here somewhere with a FEEVA logo behind her. Lucy is in the UK, and Lucy is a board member of FEEVA, and she and I are going to keep an eye on the chat function, as will Yael, and then moderate some questions as we proceed. But it may be that a lot of your questions, don't be too quick to put them in, because your questions or concerns or issues may be addressed by what our colleagues from FEI say in the second lot of presentations. So our FEEVA's member, independent standalone member in France, which is AVEF, which is the Association of Equine Veterinarians in France, was the organization that brought to us the issues, the concerns around this topic. And we in FEEVA then agreed that we would voice these on behalf of AVEF to our other member associations. We currently have 23 member associations across Europe that between them represent approximately 9,000 equine veterinarians. And we had some feedback from some of our other member associations, which is what then prompted us to approach the FEI to present to them some of the concerns and issues on behalf of AVEF, and they made responses, and then they very kindly agreed that we would host this webinar. So as you can see from the shared screen here, Vincent Borot, who is in the west of France currently, is going to present on behalf of AVEF, and as the association that brought the concerns, he is going to present. Yael, if you want to change to that screen in a moment, he's going to present what concerns that their members have raised. After he has done so, which we expect to take about 15 minutes, then we have 3 or potentially 4 speakers from the FEI who will present their responses, but very much, of course, they're very welcome to present the rationale behind the app and so on and so forth, and how it has developed. And so we'll come to that in a moment. So I shall hand over at this point. I'm going to turn off my own camera when I'm not speaking, and I'm going to hand over to Vincent to present what he would a summary and overview of the concerns at this point. So just again to emphasize, we're recording this webinar, and you may use the chat function to write your items, concerns, issues. But I hope that our colleagues from the FEI after Vincent, that those colleagues will possibly address the concerns before you even get to write them down. Over to you, Vincent.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you all the FEVA board, and thank you to FEI representative to be here to hear our concerns. So I have to talk about the concerns about implementations of FEI HorseApps for registration of equine vaccination. It's a reflection by AVEF about this subject. Next, please. First, I want to say that AVEF fully supports the FEI's desire to increase the reliability and the traceability of vaccination for equines participating in FEI international competitions. That's a fact. At the same time, in France, we had an implementation of a secure ordinal systems for centralizing veterinary data, who's called Calypso Vet. So what I want to say today is we wish to research into system interoperability. Why? Because we want to be in order to reduce the time spent on procedures by equine veterinarians while answering data reliability and protection. That's very important for us, but it's not an opposition. It's a constructive approach about FEI apps. Furthermore, we would like in France to have opinion of other FEVA members to about this application. Next, please. Reminder the context. This FEI tools was implemented without prior consultation with national veterinary organizations, but the mandatory implementations of the procedure is as soon as January the 1st of next year. We can see that it exists some points of incompatibility with the CRPM code. The CRPM code, Code Rural et de la Pêche Maritime, is a French code governing the veterinary profession in France. So we have reservation expressed by our ordinal authorities, which has asked French veterinarians not to apply the procedure at this time. So we are in expect about how to use this FEI app. Furthermore, we have main concerns of French veterinarians in the field. The problem is really the increase in data entry procedures. And that's really the main problem for us. Next, please. I have to tell you about 4 issues raised, 4 key points. One is reliability, one procedure, one is responsibility, and one is about geolocalization and data protection. Next. About reliability, we can tell that there is a risk of falsification. We can have false certifications by unlicensed veterinarians who are practicing in France under the LPS with freedom to provide service. That's vets in France who are not registered as veterinary practicing in France, but who are coming sometimes in France for temporary work. I can see that FEI apps is not really guaranteed about this risk. The procedure with the horse photo is not a secure process. We test it. You can have a photo of a horse, be geolocalized near the place where the horse is, and take the photo of the picture and can validate your vaccinations. That's not a totally secure process on my mind. And I have several questions about that. Why are there no serological tests to ensure that horses are properly vaccinated? It will be a good control system to be sure. And why does FEI still accept last-minute certification by mail or fax during the events? I can have this experience in my work, and that's not possible to accept last-minute certification, I think. Next, please. Second key point issue raised is about procedure. We in France have business software, and our business software is with a link with CalypsoVet, and CalypsoVet should have a link with FEI app. But today it's not possible to have this direct kind of link. The consequence is multiple entries and increase of administrative time. It's increase of time consuming for us vets on the field. There are also areas without connectivity in the stables. So in conclusion, we can say that so much time for administrative process is always less time to care for the horses. And that's problem for us. Next, please. The third issue is about responsibility. In this system, all the responsibility is entirely transferred to the veterinarians without involvement of person responsible, of the owner or the person responsible of the horse. We can have a comparison with a process who exists in France, is applied for races horses by the France Galop Society, where the validation is made by trainers in their own responsibility. The question is what can arrive if we have a dispute with the responsible person, if the vet make his work well, but the horse is not correctly registered by FEI. Who is responsible? Is the vet always the vet, or is also the PR? Next one. The third issue is about the geolocalizations. That's a big question. That's an ethical issue concerning individuals' freedoms and respect for professional secrecy. It's about regulation and law in France, but also in Europe. And so we can say that there is some questions about this procedure of geolocalizations. I can find in European Commission regulation about privacy in electronic communications, two directives, 95/46 and 22 and /58, who say that we need to have a protection on fundamental rights and freedoms, and we need to obtain always prior authorization before use this procedure of geolocalizations. Next, please. You can find this text by Rolex, and it's about protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. It's about have some adequate safeguards and respect the private sphere of users looking these apps, and should and that we should have an authorization before use of geolocalizations. Next, please. So we have some concern, and we have some proposals that I have to discuss with you. First is the question of identification by the secure identification system in France called Calypso. It can be for us, but I don't know if there is other countries in FEEVA's members who have the same systems, but we can have a secure system, identification system with this national system, and it's a double work to make identification in France and make identification with FEI number. It's most time spent for just identification procedures. And it can be a security to have only licensed practitioners to be permit to have access to the app and the registration of vaccinations. We think that vet declarations is equal to certifications. I think we can believe in probity of veterinarians. Of course, there is some who are not with probity, but in the big majority, it's a case. And in a wonderful vet world, it will be more easy if we have automatic sharing of data from our softwares and CalypsoVet and 2FEI. And geolocalization is really for us a big problem because it's by some aspect against law, and our ordinary authorities have said it's not possible to let this system in this situation. Next, please. So please understand what I say. The objective is to make the process more flexible and less time spent. Perhaps it could be a good solution to deferred entry of veterinary data. Of course, we can have a certification of horse identification by microchip reading or passport reading carried on D0 by the vet on the field. It's not a long time procedure, but the certification of health data with vaccine name, batch numbers, the day of the vaccination can be deferred between D0 to D4, for example. And the responsibility of the PR must be to have the declaration to FEI after the data entry by the veterinarian, for example, between the D4 to the D8. I remember that D8 is a delay for register horse in FEI competition after vaccination. So it's possible to have a vaccination certification procedure and validation by FEI between D0 and D8. That's not a big problem to have for the horse or for the horse or to compete during a meeting, and perhaps try to go to a racing horses system in France is a good example for that. Next and last one, please. So let's have a discussion about that if you want, please. The commitment to move to a secure and efficient 100% digital FEI passport is the objective, and we share this objective with everyone. Thank you for your attention. Bye.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much for outlining the issues and some of the concerns, and no doubt our members across Europe have others. So at this point, it only is for me to introduce that we have some very senior members of the FEI on this webinar, and between them, they're going to both present their view, their aspirations, their vision for the FEI app, but also, I hope, as part of that, address some of the concerns that have been raised by Vincent. So we have Goran Ekerstrom, who is well known to many of you, who's the Director of Veterinary and Equine Welfare at the FEI. We have Gaspard Dufour, apologies for my bad accent, Gaspard, who is the Director of Technology, really. So it's Information Technology and Operations at the FEI. I believe he may have a colleague or one of his team members, Victoria, with him as well. And then again, known to many of you, we have Jenny Hall, and Jenny is based in the UK and is the chair of the FEI's veterinary committee, and of course has long experience of all FEI matters, including the use and application of these apps in the field. So my colleagues in FEI, I hand over to you at this point.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Vincent, for your presentation. Certainly a lot to think about in there. A lot of sort of historic, points that would apply to our previous requirements. For example, your point about serological testing for proof of vaccination. So points like that. and then some technical issues for us to think about with geolocation. So very, very wide ranging. So as I say, thank you again to Joe and the FEEVA board for taking the time to reach out to us and to organise this webinar this afternoon. And if I can hand over to my colleagues to make our presentation.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you, Joe and the FEEVA team. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a really good opportunity to have this dialogue with you, and hopefully we can straighten out some of those question marks and work together on the way forward with this. Gaspar, next, please. So just to give you a background, why did we introduce the EI registration on the HorseApp? Well, it's primarily about movement of horses between EU member states, actually, and I come to that later, but also facilitate international movement of horses. FEI horses, just like many of racing horses, have a higher health status that is provided for in legislation and also international standards. And through that, we work with equine disease-free zones, high health, high performance concepts, bubble to bubble. There are many names on systems on how to organize biosecurity around major championships and games, primarily, where proper vaccination is absolute key, and we have to be a very trustworthy partner to the competent authorities in those countries, for example, ministries of Japan, United States, etc. We've also had quite a lot of problems with falsified or incorrect statements in regards in the paper passport. It has been lay people. Sometimes they've got hold of stamps. We've had several examples of that from a veterinarian forgotten somewhere, or even possibly even designed by someone to look like a vet. We've had that, but we've also had a lot of issues where we have those last minute statement by fax at competitions, which we really don't like. And it's not only us, it's also DG Santé of the European Commission that were concerned over how vaccinations, whether they actually were carried out by veterinarians or if they were carried out by the rider or their team or a horse owner, and the vet afterwards stated for that, filled it out the passport or send in a fax. So we needed somehow to solve that situation. This is a problem in Europe, but also in other parts of the world. But for us, it was also about equine welfare. We wanted to allow more time for FEI veterinary delegates to monitor horses at the competition without having to spend time looking into the passport, the same passport that their colleague looked at 2 weeks before, looking at the very same thing. So we just needed to allow this time for the vets to be with the horses. And of course, to streamline FEI processes as well when it comes to entry systems, the arrival processes of horses at competitions. Joe said he had used that for the FEI HorseApp to check on horses when they arrive at FEI competitions. Gaspar, next, please. So this is a quote from Alf Fussell, who used to be the head of the unit at DG Santé that were working with all the horse matters in relation to biosecurity and horse movement. A solid registration system that ensures that the ID of the horse, the time and place for the activity, and the identity of the veterinarian would enable a high health status horse category to be introduced. Those horses are licensed from the national branch of FEI for sport for a period not exceeding 4 years. Alf said this already in 2018. And this is really the very fundament for the horse movement. And it also is a strong argument for why veterinarians actually should be with the horse when they enter this information. This eventually ended up in a legislation. So if you move to next, please, Gaspar. So it's the Commission Delegated Regulation, EU 2020/688. This is a part of the EU Animal Health Law. And we have derogation for the registered horses when they go to competitions. And the very foundation for that, and it was actually an agreement with DG Santé for us to have this derogation, to not having to have the very, very hard requirements that would be for non-registered horses or horses not going to competitions. So the documents, there will be a documentation of at least 2 visits per year by a veterinarian, including those necessary to carry out regular equine influenza vaccinations. And we agreed on specifications with DG Santé on this, how important it was that the vet actually, Alf said, you have to prove that the vet actually is with the horse during vaccination. And that is an absolute key aspect from our side. So this is the background to why we have these requirements. And if you look back then to, Vincent, you mentioned concerns over the reliability that was easy to falsify. It's compared to the current paper version that is around for just the manual filling out of the paper passport. This is much more secure. This allows us to control in a much better way than we will ever be able to do with a paper passport. Looking also at the France Galop solution, we of course looked at that, and I know Le Trot has a similar system as well. The trotters in Scandinavia have a similar system. I used to work for harness racing in Scandinavia, and it doesn't meet the requirements that were set up by DG Santé. So that's why we are much more strict than they are, and we could never accept that solution. Those horses travel a lot less than FEI horses. French trotters, they will mainly compete within France. Swedish trotters will mainly compete in Sweden, Scandinavia, where there are better provisions, more local or regional rather, provisions to allow horses to travel. So it's not built up around this derogation for the 30-day health certificate.
And
I think,
if I can just chip in, Johan, I mean, my understanding is that France Galop then still checks the passports when the horse comes to the races. There is still that regulatory check, even though the information has already been entered from an administrative point of view. And that's where we were keen to remove that workload, wasn't it? Because we didn't want that duplication. We wanted this automated system, and with it away from the competition activity. And I guess also, obviously, Vincent, practicing in the UK as I do, I use the Weatherby's app for gallopers in the UK, and so have hands-on sort of experiences of the challenges with that as well. And you can still, fudge the dates. You can do a lot of the things that you can't do with the FEI app, which is a bit of a culture shock with the FEI app for everybody. But at least from the person responsible's point of view, they get that immediate feedback in their own app about the horse having been vaccinated. So I think they're getting, so they are responsible, I think, to answer one of your questions, who gets the fines, and it's definitely the person's responsible. Although I am really glad we've had this transition year where nobody's had the fines. But at least then they can see directly what they're responsible for. And that ends up not happening with the Weatherby's app, because it relies on email reminders to trainers. And, you know, I think it is much easier for them to end up having had a horse vaccinated properly, but then not being allowed to race it because they haven't got their paperwork correct. But anyway, sorry for the interruption, and let me hand back to Joran.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for the clarification. So in regards of serological tests, I agree those can be really, really helpful if there are falsifications, no doubt. We used it also for the trotters in Sweden at some points. The thing now with FEI, we have 136 member states. Not all countries would even have laboratories where they could conduct those tests. So for us that operate on a global scale, it's not doable unless we want to target something, which we absolutely have the right to do. And we have taken various numbers of samples of horses, especially after the outbreak in Spain of equine herpes virus, and we have a good network of laboratories that we can work with now if we need to do that kind of activity. So it's nothing that we have put aside, it's just that we can't do it as a default function. So with that, I hand over to Gaspar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joran, and good afternoon, everyone. So I will carry on with the presentation, and also some of the slides will allow me to come back on some of the points mentioned by Vincent. I'm expecting that you are all already familiar somehow with the vaccination recording through the FEI HorseApp. So this is not about exactly how the app is working. What I wanted we do this afternoon is just to highlight some key features that can be interesting, or maybe you not always realize that are already existing in the app actually, but can be really useful actually when you are using the FEI HorseApp for recording equine influenza vaccination. So we start with that, and then we will see some more details. And as I said, I will come back to some of the points raised by Vincent during the presentation. So the first thing, the vaccination module, as you may know, it was introduced at the very beginning of 2025, so of this year, but it's a result of a long process internally within the FEI, and also in consultation with our national federation, with the national head veterinarians that we have in each of the federation that are member of the FEI. There is one, as you may know, veterinarian that is chosen as national head vet, and all those national head vet were also consulted in all the process of creating the vaccination module for the FEI HorseApp. And just what I want to highlight in that first slide, when we started, we had two categories of veterinarians. We have the existing FEI vets that some of you are for sure, that are already permitted treating vet or official vet officiating at FEI events. And we had a whole category on non-FEI vet. That was a population we didn't know at that time, but that we have to bring in and register into the application, so they can start using the application for the purpose of recording equine influenza vaccination. So just to clarify, there were those two populations, and now we have a mix of existing FEI vet and also just practicing vet that are using the FEI app just for the purpose of recording vaccinations. Then carrying on, I think another very important point to mention is horse identification. It was mentioned already. That's one of the key process into this system, to be able, as Joran also mentioned before, to confirm that the vet is in presence of the horse. And to do that, we have developed two different methods. The first one is the use of microchip reader. So Bluetooth microchip reader, not any microchip reader, but a Bluetooth microchip reader there is like more than 12 microchip readers that are compatible with the FEI HorseApp. They are all listed on the FEI website, and that's really the method we recommend to use. That's very simple, very quick, very efficient. In less than 30 seconds, you connect your reader, scan your horse, and you have all the information of that horse automatically coming into your app. But of course, we have also like a failover on second method, that is the identification using a photograph, as it was also mentioned by Vincent. So in that case, if it's not possible to scan the microchip, or if you have no microchip reader with you or no battery, whatever the reason is, in any case, you can still take a picture of the horse instead, and this will be for us the way to control that you are in presence of the horse. It was mentioned that, some of you may have tried to go around that functionality and to see how much this was checked. So right now we are manually checking the picture of each horse. So that's a lengthy process that costs us time and money, as you can imagine. And we are not always like up to date as quick as the vaccination need to be approved. So that's why sometimes maybe you have tried and enter pictures that are not a horse, or a picture of a horse on a book or whatever. We have seen a lot of very interesting things, but all those pictures are checked. Again, this is not real time, but as we know that some people have been playing with this check, we are also now working on automated feature to accelerate it and to be able to block any incorrect picture that would be used to identify horse, just to make sure that the process is used correctly and that we can confirm that the vet using the phone is in the presence of the horse. So again, those two methods, either microchip reader, we recommend this one, or the photo of the horse. Then also you may have, I think most of you faced that point, when a horse enters the system for the first time, there is two possible situations. The first one, you restart a full course of vaccination for that horse. So that's pretty easy. You can go straight in the application, vaccinate the horse, and record the primary course first vaccine for that horse. So this is restarting from zero, so it is straightforward. And if you face a horse where you are just continuing the course of vaccination by most of the time injecting a booster, in that case, the system is requesting you, as the horse is not yet registered into the system, to record what we call an historical vaccination. And I hope it's clear for most of you, but I want to mention that one more time. An historical vaccination is not the full history of all the previous vaccination. It is not that. It is only the last valid vaccine for equine influenza that has been recorded for that horse. So only the last one in the past, and then it will allow to calculate the date for the next one, and then to enter the next one in the system. So in case the horse is not in the system, the only vaccination needed is the last one given for that horse. And then another, I think, important feature that some of you also may have experienced already. We know that's one of the feedback we got many times, and our vet committee and Jenny in that call was also very clear on that. We need solutions if there is poor internet connection or no internet connection at stables, because we all know it happens. Stables are in the countryside, network coverage can be poor. So the FEI HorseApp, when you are using it as a veterinarian, has an offline functionality. So it means that all the data about all horses are embedded in the app into a local database directly in the application, meaning that you can do the whole process of identifying a horse and recording the vaccination without internet connection. This is all working without internet connection. The only condition, I think it's important to mention, is that you have, prior to arriving in the stable, you have installed the FEI HorseApp and potentially opened it like soon enough prior to arrive, just that the data that you have on your application are fresh enough, has been synchronized with the main database. So meaning you have fresh data. But as soon as you have done that, you can do that at your clinic or at your home before leaving. Then you have all fresh data, and you can work fully offline. And only when you will be back at a place where you have connection, the data will be synchronized. So this is also a key feature that I wanted to highlight today, because it can really help you to work if you are in a situation where the connection is really bad or even not existent. So that was some of the feature I wanted to highlight today. Now we just quickly touch on what is the timeline of the rollout of this module. So this module is regulated directly within the recording of equine influenza vaccination through the FEI HorseApp is directly regulated in the FEI veterinary regulations that were approved at the end of 2024. 2025, the year we are right now, we rolled out the system since the 1st of February, and we call this year a transitional year, to the point that Jenny mentioned. That's a year where everyone is strongly invited to use the system to get used to it, but there is no sanction, no fines if the recording is not done properly. So there is a full year, actually 11 months for all the actors, meaning you as veterinarians and also the person responsible, to get used to the system and to be helped if it's needed. And then as of next year, as of 2026, we enter into the full rollout, meaning that we will start to apply sanctions in case vaccination are not correctly recorded. And those sanctions, as it was mentioned before, they will be applied to the person responsible. So most of the time to your clients, to your customers. So meaning that's not directly your responsibility to record the vaccinations, that's your responsibility on behalf of your clients to make sure that the horse are properly vaccinated and this vaccination is properly recorded. So you're the person responsible, your client in that case, has no problem when he is arriving at an FEI event. So that's for the timeline. And then, yeah, just to come back on what I mentioned before, but 3 key tips really to keep in mind when you are using the app. We strongly recommend you to use a Bluetooth microchip reader. If you don't have one compatible with the FEI HorseApp, the first one, just to be clear, the price starts at 150 euros. So I think it's a pretty small investment compared to the benefit it can give you in the day-to-day use of the system. If the connection is poor or bad, and really the app is not going as fast as you wish, you can even just switch your phone to flight mode. You will be working full offline just for the time of recording. So this will be very fast. And then when you are finished with recording your vaccination, just go back to the normal mode, and all the data will be synchronized later. And also a very important point, also back to one of the slides mentioned by Vincent, that if you are in a hurry, if you have a lot of horses to vaccinate and you need to move to a next stable for an emergency or whatsoever, the only thing that is necessary to do in the FEI HorseApp on day 0, on the day of vaccination, is to identify the horse. Okay, so you need to identify the horse, as we saw, either by scanning the chip with a Bluetooth reader or by taking a picture. Okay, and then you can save this vaccination as a draft. The only things you need to save is to have done the identification. And after that, you can come back to the application 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. There is no limit actually at the moment. So you can come back later to complete the vaccination information, to add the picture of the vaccination page. But again, keep that in mind, because I think maybe that's not yet clear enough or communicated enough. But the only thing needed on day 0, on the day of vaccination, is the identification, nothing else. Of course, if you do everything, that's good, but you can still come back and add the other data later. And then the thing to make sure, again, it may look or sounds obvious, but just to remind you on that, yeah, please make sure you have your app installed before arriving at your client's table, or you can recommend that to your fellow colleagues. We have many times vets suddenly contacting us saying, yeah, I had no app installed when I arrived, so it was a nightmare. That's true. if you are taken short and you realize you need to do all that when arriving at the client stables, it's much more complicated. So it's really, if you are in contact with other vets that have not started to use the FEI HorseApp yet, just invite them to install it already, create their account, so at least they are not taken short when they arrive at a stable. Just make sure to update the app frequently. We are releasing update every week just to improve speed, to add functionality, small details that make your life easier. So just think about doing the update of your app on your phone. And make sure that each time you vaccinate a FEI horse, you have your app with you and you record the vaccinations there. It avoids a lot of correction, contacting us, dealing with you or the PR that is just much more lengthy than just doing the right recording on the time of vaccination. So that was for the key information and key points that you can take with you. And before reopening the floor to different points and questions, we also want to show you some figures to give you an idea of what have been the progress since the 1st of February, when we launched the system. So first thing, that's the amount of FEI veterinarians that we have today registered in the FEI system. I mentioned at the beginning, we have two categories of FEI vets: the official veterinarians, a bit more than 1,600. The FEI permitted treating vets, a bit more than 2,700. And then you remember, I mentioned to you this other population of veterinarians, the practicing vets, the way we call it here. So they are not FEI vets. They are just here to use the FEI HorseApp to register vaccinations. And today, that's really the data from today, there is, as you can see, close to 7,000 vets that have created an account in the FEI system and that have been using the app for the purpose of recording vaccination. So as you can see, this gives us a population of more than 10,000 vets that have access to the system and that have been using potentially the app for recording vaccinations. Just, it's always good to have an idea of the scale and the number of people that are already interacting with the system. So that's for the users. Now, looking about the vaccinations themselves, how many vaccinations have been recorded in the FEI HorseApp since we launched it. So that's the first number in bold here. So we are very close to the 100,000 vaccination recording in the system. You can see more than 98,000 vaccination recorded. You have the breakdown between the historical and the new vaccination. I explained before what are those two categories. And also to give you an idea of what population of the FEI registered horses it represents. So as you may know, every horse, when he has to compete in FEI competition, he needs to be registered for the given year, so for 2025 in that case. So again, that's fresh data from today. So today we have just above 74,000 horses that are registered with the FEI for competition purposes this year. And out of those 74,000, we already have more than 54,000 that are enrolled in the vaccination recording process, meaning they have their vaccination recorded through the FEI HorseApp, which is giving us a bit more than 73% of the whole population of registered FEI horses are already enrolled in the vaccination process, which is a pretty fair and good number, I think we can say, because of course some horses are still in the process of waiting for the next booster typically. So that's also why a part of the population is also not enrolled yet. So we can say that overall, the system has been used, is in place, and we have big amount of vet and a very decent amount of horses that are already registered in the system. And now, stay seated because this graph is a bit big, but it will be shared with you.
I know I'm interrupting you a little bit, Gaspard,
but
I'm just conscious that I want to allow some of our members, including Vincent, to come back and perhaps raise some issues or concerns. Would it be okay at this point if I hand over to one of them, Gaspard, and let them?
Sure. I have two slides, Joey, and I'm done if you want. Very quick. Sorry, there's the two last figures, and very quick.
Quick.
quick. So this one is just to show you the amount of vaccination recorded every week since we launched the system. And I say it will be shared with you after. So I'm not spending more time. You will like the last one, Joe, actually. That's why I wanted to present it. The last one is about Europe. So just it was the conclusion. So this is in the blue bar are the percentage of horses registered in each of those European countries that have been using the system, so meaning their vaccination has been recorded. So again, we will share that, but it gives you an idea. Most of the European countries are doing pretty well. Okay. There is just 2 countries that need to catch up. France is one of the 2. That's probably why we have France speaking today. So it's a good transition for you, Joe, to come back to the point of Vincent.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Vincent. If that's okay, Jenny, I just think it's very important. We only have 8 minutes left on this time in case people have to leave at that point, but I will allow you to speak after Vincent if that's okay. But I think it's only fair at this point just to let Vincent, who's had his hand up for a little bit, to come back and respond to some of what's been presented by the FEI. But then we will come to you, Jenny, by all means. Vincent, if you'd like to unmute your microphone and give us your response, please.
Yeah, many thanks to Gaspar for all these explanations. That's very important that I remember that it's always possible for a vet in case of emergency or in case of no more time to spend to have a draft of the procedure only with identification of the horse, and it's possible to submit later the registration of vaccinations. It's really a good information, but in the field, I need to continue to register the registration in the paper passport, in the FEI paper passport? If yes, that means that we need to register the information twice, one in the paper passport, twice in the FEI apps, and third in our own software for facturation for the bill after. So it's 3 times the same work. That's the question. And I have another question for all of the people. I would like to know what is the position of other countries than France.
Okay. So Jenny, I think you can probably answer the question about the 1, 2, and 3 entries of vaccination, but then you had another point to make.
Yeah, well, my point actually, what I wanted to make was just from the chat, while we have Gaspar, Laurent's question about if you have low battery power in front of the horse, what happens then? I thought that might be a simple one we could take, Gaspar.
Yeah, sure. So for this one, of course, you need a phone with battery. So if you have low battery, no power bank with you, you are a bit taken short, but you can still use any other phone. So if that's really the worst case situation, but technically speaking, you just open another phone, connect with your FEI ID and your password, and you are good to go to continue your work. But I mean, this is existing for any usage we have of our smartphone today. If we run off of battery, yeah, we need to find trick solutions to go around.
But so Gaspar, sure, the other phone has to have the FEI HorseApp on it.
Yes. So the only issue, if you have, again, poor connection and no battery, and if you combine those two, you can really reach a situation where it's challenging. That's I will not say the opposite.
Okay. What about the use of QR codes, Gaspar? Is that something that the FEI has considered would have value?
So use of QR code right now, we don't have. I don't know which QR code are we speaking about. If it is to identify horses, we have the barcode right now in the passport, but they are not the best way actually to identify horses. So we decided not to use them and just to stick with the horse picture. That is a better proof that you are in presence of the horse compared to scanning the passport, because scanning the passport is just proving that you are in presence of the passport.
And Bluetooth readers, I think I heard you say €150. Is the FEI going to give each of us Bluetooth microchip reader, Goran or Gaspar? That's a little bit of a joke, obviously. But, every equine veterinarian would say more and more is expected of us, more time, more administration, more and more. Who is paying for this, including the equipment that we're expected to use?
Thank you,
Go
Joe.
on.
It's a very valid question, and we did in the beginning check what should we buy a lot of Bluetooth readers and sell them for a very reduced price, but making this work around the world is just not feasible. So we decided not to go down that route. But overall, when you talk about all the, let's call it the administrative, but also financial burden of adding to it. So it's, you have your clients, and the clients are the ones paying for your services, and that financial that financial relation between you and the client. So it's, in the end, you need to charge your clients. We're not asking of any veterinarians to sponsor us nor the client. I know they will complain for sure, but it's reality, and it will. We are doing our utmost now to have our horses traveling more facilitated over Europe, and this is something that I think we also need to be better in presenting to our community, that they partly pay this through possibly an increased price of the vaccination, because that's really the equation behind it.
We did get feedback from one of our member associations, inverted commas, that, oh, so this was just invented by veterinarians as a way of making more money. So they just make it more difficult. They add on another layer so that they can charge more money. And I'm not saying that's real, but you understand the perception out there, everybody, that it's about another layer of bureaucracy to make money for veterinarians.
We certainly haven't charged any differently for vaccinations in the practice that I work for. And I guess it did take a little bit of getting up to speed with the app in the beginning, and helpful to have Gaspar's top tips, I would say. And mine would be absolutely reflected in one of, I think, James Crabtree's comments, is if you don't know that there's going to be an FEI vaccination before you get to the stables, that's a bit of a challenge, because you haven't got the latest app downloaded. So I do ask clients, because it will be their problem if it's not right, just to make sure they do say that there will be FEI vaccinations to do. But there's certainly quite a few more questions in here, isn't there? The Danish issue has been raised, and again, that's a separate matter, not having the difference between the FEI expectations and the medicines information. So I think there are quite a few on here that we need to take forward to the session at your General Assembly, because I recognise that we're now up for time. So just want to say again.
Perhaps one of you would like to write in an email address into the chat function that anybody can address these concerns directly to the FEI. Would that be helpful? I don't have a time pressure here. I'm happy to stay on and address some of these, but I think an email address might just be useful, Jenny, whichever.
Yeah, I can put mine in here.
Whatever that is.
What was I going to say also was, you said about, someone said about Vincent said about the duplication of work between the fact that you have to use the app, you have to use the paper passport, and that certainly, unfortunately, it's because of the requirements, certainly in Europe, the requirements to maintain the paper passport for the present time. There's no way around that. So I agree that is a bit of double recording. But hopefully going forwards, we'll be able to streamline things. But at the moment, that is certainly a requirement.
I think Vincent's point was really there's also maybe a national system, which means it's a triplicate system that requires.
Well, in France, clearly there is, and clearly you have a very useful system there. And Johan referred to the fact that we've got 135 members, haven't we? So we've got this diverse international group of national federations. So that's why we've ended up with it on the FEI platform, so that's something that everyone can use, sort of regardless of the infrastructure in their own country, really. So that's a bit of the background to that. But I guess I would like to make one closing remark, which is, I think what this has really highlighted for me is, as one of my colleagues mentioned, we do have the FEI national head veterinarian in each country. And I think, and I had a quick look through their job description, and it talks about liaising with the competent authorities, but it does not really highlight the value of liaising with the Equine Association of Equine Veterinary Surgeons in each person's country. And I think that's the gap, and that's what, FEEVA, you're really helping fill for us here. And I can only apologise that we haven't had this kind of joint session 12 months ago, which I think would have been really helpful. But I'm very conscious that of everyone being busy and working. Johan, I'll hand over to you for some final remarks from yourself.
Thank you, Jenny. I just wanted to mention that we did inform the national head vets in a meeting in Istanbul in January 2024, and we had some very varied results from that. We have Sweden and Germany, for example. I saw that Carl-Henrik Heimdall, national head vet of Sweden, was attending this meeting, and from what I understood, there was a very active part from his side to engage with the veterinarians in Sweden about the system, while in other countries it did not work at all. So it's a lesson we learned from that. We need to be much more active ourselves to ensure this. So thanks again, Joe and the FEEVA team. This is really helpful for us.
You're very welcome. Gaspar, you might just stop screen sharing there for a moment so that we can just go back to the normal screen. But you're right, Horan, we had responses from some of our member associations, including some FEI head vets who I think had taken a very more proactive role in engaging with FEI veterinarians in that country. So of course it's varied across Europe, and no doubt outside of Europe it's even more varied, because you have many other territories that we're not here to discuss just now. So I'm sure you're right that it has somewhat been piecemeal or patchy and better in some countries than in others. So it's interesting to see the stats that Gaspar has presented, but but when you put global figures there, of course, we don't know, how those relate particularly to our European, and I just don't mean EU, European countries. The one I'm just thinking about that Vincent had raised is about geolocation. And I know you referenced the animal health law and high health status and the requirement to synchronize with the veterinarian's presence beside the horse. I can see the logic of that, but I can also see that from what Vincent has said, there may be a conflict with national rules and data protection and so on. So I can see there's a conversation for us to continue to have. Just for those who are left remaining on this, we intend that this conversation will continue. Several of us will be in Lyon in some 3 weeks' time, hosted by Vincent and Ameline, who has been on this call, the president of AVEF. So the General Assembly for FEEVA will be in Lyon at that point, and Gaspar and Roran at least are at that event. And we will have some further discussion around this subject of the FEI HorseApp vaccination protocols. We will also be talking, just to come back, and Jenny mentioned it, she might have put the name Danish on it, but it's an issue for all veterinarians in EU member states. If there is a conflict between the SPC of a veterinary medicine and what is being asked of us in a practice situation, then that conflict can be a problem for veterinary medicines. Gaspar, do you want to make a final comment at this point? I think would be fair.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. So yeah, I will try to be quick. Sorry, I took long. But yeah, just to come back on also quickly the remaining point from Vincent, the one on geolocalization that you mentioned. So yeah, there is two aspects. Of course, in your mobile application, to use geolocalization, you need to grant access. I mean, you know that from any application you use. So if you really don't want to do it, of course, you can block it. You will have issue, but as some other application, like if you want to use Uber without geolocalization, you will have difficulty to have a car. So at the same thing, we use it only for the purpose of recording the vaccine. There were a point from Vincent about this national system Calypso Vet. That is a French system to record all type of veterinary matters, not only for equine, as you may know. So just to reassure you, Joe, but we are in touch with his name, Conseil National de l'Ordre Vétérinaire Français, so that's a national authority, government authority. We are in touch with the president of this organization, and we have answered positively to many of their requests to actually help the FEI system and their national system to work together, keeping in mind that this Calypso Vet system right now is not yet ready for recording of equine vaccinations. For the moment, it's mostly dealing with cattle, but not yet with equine vaccination. So we are a bit further than the system, but we are in direct contact with them. And also related to one other point mentioned by Vincent about making sure that the person behind the phone is a veterinarian, that the person about to register vaccine is a proper vet. And it was mentioned in France, they have a system to allow vet to log in into any type of digital environment according to the fact that they are registered as vet in France. Maybe some other country have that as well. So we have also offered to integrate this system into the FEI HorseApp, meaning we can make sure that a vet in France is really a vet. But again, we need geolocalization to do that, because we need to check that if you are in the French territory, because if you are somewhere else, that's different. So just wanted to mention, we have this communication with this French authority and also with AVEF, and Ameline, actually, I had many contacts with her. So it's going on, and we will be in Lyon, so we can continue many conversations there.
Yes. Okay, excellent. And just to say, there are other issues in the chat here. We'd be delighted to see those. They could be sent into us in FEEVA, for example, at yael at fei.org would do, and we could then collate them and provide them further. They would help inform our conversation in Lyon in 3 weeks' time. That's yael at fei.org, and Yael does a great job in coordinating us and trying to keep me on the straight and narrow, which is difficult. And so we could continue these conversations, and we will be discussing this issue when we're in the GA, and also the related issue around medicines regulations and so on, which is a bigger and broader topic. I think at this point, really, I say thank you to my colleagues, our colleagues from the FEI. I say thank you to our colleagues from AVEF, Vincent in particular, for stepping forward and being willing to present these, not just for himself, but for AVEF, but for the broader FEVA membership. So thank you very much. And I think at this point, it would be fair for us to close. We're only 10 minutes over our time, and have a good day, everybody, and going about your work, whatever that might be. Au revoir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.